The entire restaurant fell silent as Adana's voice cut through the elegant ambience of the Grand Palazzo Hotel in Lagos like a knife through silk. A waiter? You expect me to sit here and eat with a common waiter? Her laugh was cruel, designed to wound. She stood abruptly, her designer dress shimmering under the crystal chandeliers, and pointed directly at Chidi Okonkwo. This broke man actually thought he could take me on a date. Chidi felt every eye in the restaurant turn toward him. His white server's uniform suddenly felt like a spotlight, exposing him to public disgrace. 3 months ago, he had been untouchable, Chidi Okonkwo, only son of billionaire hotel magnate Chief Emeka Okonkwo, one of Nigeria's wealthiest men. 3 months ago, women like Adana had fought for his attention at exclusive parties in Ikoyi and Victoria Island. Now, she stared at him with pure contempt, her beautiful face twisted with disgust. Adana, please, Chidi said quietly, aware of the phones already raised, recording this moment of domestic betrayal and public humiliation. Let me explain. Explain what? She grabbed her designer handbag from a chair. That you lied to me? That you pretended to be someone important when you're just this? She gestured at his uniform with manicured nails. I have standards unlike some people. Her date for the evening, a man Chidi didn't recognize, smirked from his seat, clearly enjoying the show. Come on, babe. Let's go somewhere with better service. The whispers started immediately. Chidi heard fragments of conversations around him, each word landing like a physical blow. Isn't that the waiter who's been here for 3 months? Imagine thinking he had a chance with someone like her. Poor guy. So embarrassing. What would you do if someone you loved humiliated you in front of everyone? Hit like if you've ever been judged unfairly, and comment below where you're watching from. Chidi stood frozen as Adana strutted toward the exit, her heels clicking against the marble floor like a countdown to his complete humiliation. His hands trembled slightly as he bent to pick up the menu she'd thrown on the floor. This was exactly what his father had warned him about. Chidi, in this world, people will love your money, not you. Chief Emeka had said 6 months ago, sitting in his sprawling office overlooking Lagos Harbor. You need to learn the difference before you make a terrible mistake. Chidi hadn't believed him then. He'd been too confident, too sure that his relationship with Adana was real. They'd met at a charity gala, and she'd seemed different from the other women who threw themselves at him. She talked about wanting a simple life, about how money didn't matter to her, about loving someone for who they were inside. All eyes. The catalyst for his undercover operation had been a conversation he'd overheard 3 months ago. Adana had been on the phone with her friend, her voice floating through the partially open bedroom door of his penthouse apartment. Of course I don't love him, Chioma. But do you see the kind of life he can give me? The cars, the trips, the connections? I'll marry him, secure the bag, and then, well, we'll see. Those words had shattered something fundamental inside Chidi. He'd confronted her, but she denied everything, cried, accused him of not trusting her. And like a fool, he'd almost believed her again. That's when he'd made his decision. He would disappear from his privileged life and test the theory. He would see how people treated him when they thought he was nobody. His father had been reluctant, but ultimately agreed, even helping him secure a position as a waiter at one of their hotels under an assumed identity. 3 months, Chief Emeka had said. 3 months to learn what real character looks like, my son. Then come back and build your life with wisdom. Chidi had started as Chidimba, a simple waiter from Enugu trying to make in Lagos. He'd moved into a modest one-bedroom apartment in Surulere, far from his usual haunts in Banana Island. He'd traded his Mercedes for public buses and Okadas. He'd learned what it meant to count every naira, to work 12-hour shifts, to feel invisible to the wealthy patrons who never looked servers in the eye. And then, 2 weeks into his new life, he'd run into Adana at a nightclub in Victoria Island. She'd been with friends, celebrating someone's birthday. He'd approached her nervously, reintroducing himself as Chidi the waiter, saying they'd met briefly before. She looked right through him. I don't think so, she'd said dismissively. I'd remember. That had been his confirmation. The woman who'd claimed to love him unconditionally didn't even recognize him without the trappings of wealth. So he'd persisted, charmed her slowly over several weeks, asked her out for coffee, then dinner. She'd agreed, but always with a certain reluctance, always checking her phone as if waiting for something better. Tonight was supposed to be their third date. He'd saved up his waiter earnings to bring her to a nice restaurant. Ironically, one of his family's establishments, though she didn't know that. He'd wanted to see if she could value him for the person he was becoming, not the fortune he'd been born into. Instead, she delivered the most brutal lesson yet. Mr. Mba, the restaurant manager, Mr. Obi, approached with concern in his eyes. Unlike the patrons, Mr. Obi didn't know Chidi's true identity. "Are you all right? That was unfortunate." "I'm fine," Chidi said, though his voice sounded hollow even to his own ears. "Just need a moment. Take 5. Clean yourself up." Mr. Obi patted his shoulder awkwardly. "These things happen in our line of work. Rich people can be cruel." As Chidi walked toward the staff area, he caught his reflection in one of the ornate mirrors lining the restaurant walls. He looked different from the man he'd been 3 months ago. His face was leaner, his eyes harder. The soft edges of privilege had been worn away by early mornings, aching feet, and the casual dismissiveness of customers who saw him as part of the furniture. But beneath the hurt and humiliation, something else stirred. Determination. If Adana represented what money attracted, then somewhere out there had to be someone different. Someone who would see him, really see him, regardless of what he wore or where he worked. Someone whose love wasn't conditional on bank statements and social status. He just had to find her. Chidi splashed cold water on his face in the staff bathroom, staring at his reflection. The public disgrace still burned, but he wouldn't let it break him. His father's test wasn't over. In fact, it had just truly begun. He straightened his uniform, took a deep breath, and prepared to return to the restaurant floor. There were still 5 hours left in his shift, and he'd learned that life didn't pause for heartbreak. As he pushed open the bathroom door, he heard raised voices from the main dining area. A woman was arguing with Mr. Obi, her voice sharp with frustration. "I don't care if you're fully booked. I've been traveling for 6 hours. My event planner never confirmed my reservation, and I have 20 international guests arriving in an hour. Figure it out." Chidi rounded the corner and stopped dead in his tracks. The woman was stunning, but not in the polished, calculated way Adana was stunning. She wore a simple Ankara blazer over jeans, her natural hair pulled back in a neat bun, and she looked exhausted but fierce. No designer labels, no jewelry except for small gold earrings. She carried herself with the confidence of someone who'd earned her place in the world rather than married into it. And when her eyes met his, really met his, not sliding past him like he was invisible, something shifted in the air between them. "You," she said, pointing at Chidi. "You look competent. Can you please explain to your manager that overbooking a restaurant is unacceptable business practice?" Mr. Obi sputtered. "Miss, I've explained that we have a waiting list." "Then I'll wait at the bar," she said firmly. "But I'm not leaving until my guests have somewhere to sit." Chidi found himself stepping forward, drawn by something he couldn't name. "I can help," he heard himself say. "I'll make sure your guests are taken care of." She looked at him skeptically, then her expression softened slightly. "Thank you. I appreciate someone actually trying." She extended her hand. "I'm Amara Nwosu." "Chidi," he said, taking her hand. Her grip was firm, confident. "Chidi Mba. Well, Chidi Mba, you might have just saved my business deal." She smiled, and it transformed her entire face. "I owe you one." As Mr. Obi hurried off to rearrange tables, and as Amara settled at the bar to wait, Chidi felt his earlier devastation begin to recede. Maybe his father's test wasn't about avoiding all women. Maybe it was about learning to recognize the difference between gold diggers and gold. But he had no idea that Amara Nwosu was about to turn his world upside down in ways that would make Adana's betrayal look like a minor inconvenience. Because Amara had secrets of her own, and by helping her tonight, Chidi had just set in motion a chain of events that would force him to choose between the life he was born into and the man he was becoming. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more gripping stories like this. What do you think Chidi should do? Go back to his rich life or keep pretending? Comment below. Amara and Nwosu's business dinner turned into the longest shift of Chidi's life, but also the most meaningful. Over the next 3 hours, he watched her navigate a complex negotiation with European investors interested in her tech startup. Something about agricultural software for small-scale farmers across West Africa. She was brilliant, articulate, and completely unimpressed by the wealth on display around her. Miss Nwosu, surely you could benefit from relocating to Europe, one of the investors said, his condescending tone making Chidi's jaw tighten as he refilled water glasses. The infrastructure in Africa is so challenging. Amara's smile was polite, but her eyes were steel. Mr. Jansen, the challenging infrastructure is exactly why my software is necessary. We're not building solutions for European problems. We're building solutions that work in African realities for African people. Chidi found excuses to hover near their table, ostensibly checking on their needs, but really just wanting to hear her speak. She reminded him of his mother, may her soul rest in peace, who'd been a teacher and had always insisted that real strength came from uplifting others, not stepping on them. By the time Amara's guest departed and she'd successfully secured a significant investment, it was nearly midnight. Chidi was clearing the last tables when she approached him, looking simultaneously exhausted and exhilarated. You really did save me tonight, she said, pressing a tip into his hand. When he looked down, his eyes widened. It was 50,000 naira, more than most customers tipped in a month. Miss, this is too much. You went above and beyond. You deserve it. She hesitated, then added, and please, call me Amara. Miss makes me feel ancient. Chidi laughed despite himself. You can't be more than 28. 29, actually. And you, 31. Something passed between them in that moment. Recognition, perhaps. A sense that they were both tired of the games people played, the masks everyone wore in Lagos's relentless social hierarchy. Can I ask you something? Amara said, tilting her head. You seem different from most waiters I've met. The way you carry yourself. Like you're playing a role, but it doesn't quite fit. Chidi's heart skipped. Had she recognized him? But no. Her expression was curious, not knowing. Maybe we're all playing roles, he said carefully, trying to figure out who we really are. Spoken like a philosopher. She smiled. Look, I know this is forward, but I'm terrible at subtle. I'm organizing a charity event next weekend, providing tablets and software to rural schools in Ogun State. I could use someone with your customer service skills to help coordinate. It's volunteer work, no pay, but there's free food and you'd be making a real difference. Chidi was surprised by how much he wanted to say yes. Not because of who she might be or what she might have, but because something about Amara and Nwosu made him want to be better, to do more, to matter in ways that had nothing to do with his father's bank account. I'd like that, he said. Perfect. She pulled out her phone. Give me your number, and I'll send you the details. They exchanged numbers, and as Amara left the restaurant, Chidi felt something he hadn't experienced in months. Hope. But his hope was short-lived. The next morning, Chidi woke in his modest Surreal apartment to his phone buzzing incessantly. Social media notifications flooded his screen, and his stomach dropped as he opened Instagram. Adana had posted. The video from last night's public disgrace was everywhere. She'd filmed the entire humiliation, edited it with dramatic music and text overlays. When a broke man thinks he can date up #KnowYourLevel #standards #LagosLife. The video had gone viral. Hundreds of thousands of views. Comments poured in, mostly supporting Adana, calling Chidi delusional, laughing at his audacity. Imagine a waiter thinking he has a chance. She dodged a bullet. Stay in your lane, sir. This is why I only date men with visible wealth. Chidi felt sick. This wasn't just personal embarrassment anymore. This was character assassination in the age of infidelity in marriage to truth, where emotional manipulation of facts created lasting damage. His phone rang. It was his father. Chidi. Chief Emeka's voice was tight with controlled anger. I've seen the video. The board is asking questions. People are starting to recognize you. This experiment needs to end. No, Chidi said, surprised by his own conviction. Not yet. Son, you've proven your point. You've seen how shallow people can be. Come home. Take your rightful place in the company. Find a woman from a good family, someone vetted, someone appropriate, someone like Adana. Chidi's laugh was bitter. She came from a good family, Dad. She had all the right credentials. And she destroyed me publicly for entertainment. Chief Emeka was silent for a long moment. Then what do you want? I want to finish what I started. I want to find someone who sees me, not my portfolio. And I think he thought of Amara's direct gaze, her passion for helping others, the way she'd treated him like an equal. I think I might have met her. 3 more months, his father finally said. But Chidi, if this blows up anymore, if people definitively figure out who you are, the consequences won't just affect you. Our competitors will use it. The press will tear us apart. The family name. I understand. I'll be careful. After hanging up, Chidi stared at Adana's video again. He could respond, defend himself, reveal his true identity, and make her look foolish. But what would that prove? That he could embarrass her the way she'd embarrassed him? That revenge was more important than principle? No, he'd stay the course. He'd let Adana have her viral moment. And he'd prove that character wasn't about what you had, but about who you were when no one was watching. The week passed in a blur of work and anticipation. Chidi picked up extra shifts, saved his tips, and tried to ignore the occasional customers who recognized him from the viral video and snickered. The domestic betrayal of Adana's actions stung less each day, replaced by something more productive, determination. Saturday arrived, and with it, Amara's charity event. Chidi took an Okada to the event location in Ogun State, a 3-hour journey from Lagos. The rural school was modest. Concrete buildings with faded paint, plastic chairs, and a schoolyard where children played football with a deflated ball. But the energy was electric. Amara had transformed the space. Colorful banners announced the Digital Future Initiative. Tables held brand new tablets. Local vendors sold food. And dozens of volunteers coordinated logistics, registrations, and training sessions. Chidi, you made it. Amara emerged from the crowd, wearing jeans and a t-shirt emblazoned with her company logo. She looked younger, freer, more authentic than she had in the restaurant. Come on, I'll show you what needs doing. For the next 8 hours, Chidi worked harder than he ever had at the Grand Palazzo. He helped set up equipment, registered families, taught children how to use the tablets, and carried supplies until his arms ached. He laughed with students who were seeing digital technology for the first time. He listened to parents who wept with gratitude because their children finally had access to educational resources that city kids took for granted. And through it all, Amara was everywhere, solving problems, encouraging volunteers, sitting cross-legged on the ground with children, explaining software features with infinite patience. You're incredible at this, Chidi told her during a brief break. They were sitting under a mango tree, sharing bottled water and fried plantain. Amara shrugged, but he could tell the compliment pleased her. My mother was a teacher in a village like this. She died when I was 12, but she taught me that education was the only real equalizer. Everything I built because she believed I could. I'm sorry about your mother. Me too, but I try to honor her by doing this work. Amara looked at him thoughtfully. You know, you're different from what I expected. What did you expect? I don't know. Most people who volunteer once never come back. They like the idea of charity more than the work. But you, she gestured at his dirt-stained shirt, his exhausted smile. You're actually here, present, like this matters to you. It does matter, Chidi said honestly. More than you know. Their eyes held, and Chidi felt the air shift between them again. Something unspoken but powerful, like the moment before lightning strikes. Amara, a volunteer, called out. We need you to approve the final numbers. The moment broke. Amara stood, offering Chidi her hand to pull him up. Back to work, philosopher waiter. As the sun set and the event wound down, Chidi helped pack equipment into trucks. He was exhausted, but satisfied in a way he'd never felt after a day at the hotel. This was real. This mattered. Chidi. Amara approached as he loaded the last box. Some of us are grabbing dinner at a local spot before heading back to Lagos. Nothing fancy, just suya and good conversation. Want to join? He absolutely did. The local restaurant was open air, with plastic chairs and tables under a corrugated iron roof. The suya was fresh and spicy, the beer was cold, and the conversation flowed easily among the volunteers. Teachers, tech workers, students, all united by belief in Amara's vision. To Amara, someone toasted, for reminding us that success means nothing if we don't lift as we climb. Everyone cheered, and Chidi watched Amara blush and deflect, insisting it was a team effort. But he could see how much the work meant to her, how deeply she believed in it. As the evening wore on, the crowd thinned until it was just Chidi and Amara, sitting across from each other, the table between them littered with empty bottles and napkins. "Can I confess something?" Amara said, her voice soft. "When I first met you at the restaurant, I thought you were just another guy trying to impress me by being helpful. But today, you didn't do this for me. You did it because you care. That's rare. You deserve rare," Chidi said before he could stop himself. Amara's breath caught. The air between them crackled with possibility. And then Chidi's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number with a video attachment and a message. "Thought you should see this before everyone else does. A friend." He opened the video, and his blood ran cold. It was surveillance footage from the Grand Palazzo, but not from last weekend. From 3 months ago, from his first day posing as a waiter. The footage clearly showed him arriving in a Mercedes, being greeted by hotel security, entering through the executive entrance, and meeting with the general manager in private. Someone had pieced it together. Someone knew his secret. And the video was scheduled to go live on social media in exactly 12 hours, with a caption. "That poor waiter, Adana, humiliated? He's actually Chidi Okonkwo, billionaire heir." The internet just got played. Chidi looked up at Amara, sitting across from him with trust in her eyes, believing he was exactly who he'd pretended to be. In 12 hours, she'd know the truth. And in 12 hours, she'd have every right to hate him for the lie he'd been living. Chidi barely slept that night. Back in his Surreal apartment, he paced the small living room, phone in hand, watching the minutes tick toward the scheduled release of the video that would expose his true identity. Every time he picked up the phone to call Amara and confess, his courage failed him. How would he explain? "Sorry, I've been lying to you from the moment we met. I'm actually a billionaire playing dress-up in poverty because my ex-girlfriend was a gold digger." It sounded ridiculous even in his own head. Worse, it sounded exactly like the kind of emotional manipulation and deceit that men with power use to justify treating people as experiments. By 6 a.m., Chidi made a decision. He would go to Amara before the video went live. He would tell her everything face to face. She deserved that much, at least. He found her company's office address online, a modest building in Yaba, Lagos's tech hub. He arrived at 7:30, hoping to catch her early. The security guard looked skeptical when Chidi asked for Miss Nwosu. "Do you have an appointment?" "No, but please, it's urgent. Tell her Chidi is here. She knows me." The guard made a call, and to Chidi's relief, Amara agreed to see him. She appeared in the lobby 5 minutes later, wearing a simple shift dress and looking concerned. "Chidi? What's wrong? You look terrible. Can we talk somewhere private?" She led him to a small conference room. The office was busier than he expected for a Sunday morning. Developers at computers, people on phones, the energy of a startup racing to meet deadlines. "Amara, I need to tell you something, and you're going to hate me for it." Chidi's hands were shaking. "But I need you to hear it from me first before you see it online." Her expression shifted from concern to wariness. "Okay, I'm not who you think I am." The words tumbled out in a rush. "My full name is Chidi Okonkwo. My father is Chief Emeka Okonkwo. He owns the Grand Palazzo hotel chain and about 20 other businesses across West Africa. I'm not really a waiter. I've been conducting an experiment." Amara stared at him, her face unreadable. "An experiment. 3 months ago, my ex-girlfriend, I found out she was only with me for my money. So I decided to live as a regular person, to see how people treated me without the wealth and status, to find out if anyone could see me for who I really am." "So you lied." Her voice was flat, dangerous. "You've been lying to everyone. To your co-workers at the restaurant. To me. Yes. There is no point in denial. And I'm sorry. I never meant for it to go this far. I never expected to meet someone like you. Someone like me? Amara stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. What does that mean, Chidi? Or should I call you Mr. Okonkwo? Was I part of your experiment too? Poor girl with big dreams. Perfect test subject to see if she'd fall for the humble waiter act? No. Amara, no. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? Her eyes blazed. You stood in my office in your fake waiter uniform, and you helped with my charity event. You ate suya with volunteers who make in a year what you probably spent on a watch. And the whole time you were lying, studying us like we're insects under a microscope. I was trying to find authenticity. By being inauthentic, Amara laughed, but there was no humor in it. Do you have any idea how insulting this is? You think poor people are more real than rich people? You think you can just cosplay poverty and then write a think piece about what you learned? Chidi felt each word like a physical blow because she was right. He'd convinced himself his deception was noble, a quest for truth, but from Amara's perspective, it was just another rich person's game. I'm sorry, he said quietly. You're right. I handled this completely wrong. But my feelings for you, those were real. Are real. Your feelings? Amara's voice rose. Chidi, I don't even know who you are. Every conversation we've had has been based on a lie. How am I supposed to believe anything you say now? Before Chidi could respond, Amara's phone buzzed. Then buzzed again. And again. Her expression changed as she looked at the screen. It's already out, she whispered. The video. People are tagging me, asking if I knew, calling me naive. She looked up at him, betrayal written across her face. You said I'd see it online. You knew this was coming, and you didn't warn me. I'm warning you now. Hours too late. She showed him her phone. The video had gone viral faster than even Chidi had feared. Comments flooded in. That girl Amara got played by a billionaire. Rich people really be out here conducting social experiments on us. Poverty tourism at its finest. Now, this is what you call domestic betrayal, playing with regular people's feelings for sport. Amara's hand trembled as she lowered the phone. Get out. Amara, please. Get out of my office. Get out of my life. Go back to your mansion and your Mercedes and your real life. We're done here. Let me explain. You just did. Her voice cracked, and Chidi realized with horror that she was fighting tears. You explained that I'm not even real to you. None of us are. We're just characters in your little redemption story. Well, congratulations, Mr. Okonkwo. You've learned your lesson. Now leave. Chidi wanted to argue, to make her understand, but the look on her face stopped him. He'd hurt her, deeply, and no amount of explanation would fix that right now. I'm sorry, he said one more time, then walked out. The elevator ride down felt like descending into hell. When he emerged onto the street, his phone was ringing. His father. Chidi, it's everywhere. The board is furious. Our competitors are having a field day. Okonkwo Airplay's poor is trending. You need to come home immediately and do damage control. I can't. I need to fix this. Fix what? Your experiment is over, son. It blew up spectacularly. Time to face reality. Chidi hung up and leaned against the building, feeling the weight of his choices crashing down. He'd wanted to find truth and authenticity, but all he'd created was more deception and pain. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Enjoying your viral moment? You made me look like a gold digger, so I made sure the world knows you're a fraud. We're even now. Adana. So it had been her. She'd leaked the surveillance footage, timed it for maximum damage. This was her revenge for his undercover operation, her way of reclaiming power after her own viral embarrassment. The irony wasn't lost on Chidi. He'd set out to expose false love, and in doing so, had become exactly what he'd been running from, someone whose actions hurt innocent people. Over the next 3 days, the story dominated Nigerian social media and entertainment blogs. Billionaire's social experiment gone wrong became a cautionary tale about privilege, deception, and the growing divide between Africa's wealthy elite and everyone else. Journalists camped outside the Grand Palazzo. Think pieces appeared analyzing the ethics of Chidi Okonkwo's poverty tourism. A popular Lagos radio show devoted an entire episode to why rich people need to stop playing games with our lives. Through it all, Chidi stayed in his Surreal apartment, ignoring his father's calls, refusing to return to his old life. He couldn't go back, not yet. But he also couldn't move forward. He was trapped in between, belonging nowhere. On the fourth day, there was a knock at his door. Chidi opened it to find Amara standing in the hallway, looking exhausted but determined. "I shouldn't be here," she said. "My friends think I'm crazy. My business partners are advising me to publicly distance myself from you. And part of me agrees with all of them. Then why did you come?" "Because I can't stop thinking about something you said. That your feelings for me were real." She stepped closer. "Were they, Chidi? When you were loading boxes at my event, teaching children how to use tablets, eating suya under a rusty roof, was any of that real? Or was it all just another rich man's fantasy?" Chidi met her eyes. "It was the most real I've felt in years. Every moment with you. Amara, I wasn't pretending to care. I wasn't acting interested in your work. I saw someone extraordinary, and I wanted to be part of what you're building. Not as an investor or a patron, but as someone who believes in it." Amara was quiet for a long moment. "My mother used to say that mistakes reveal character. Not the mistake itself, but what you do after. What do you want me to do?" "I want you to prove that this wasn't just a game." She pulled out her phone and showed him a news article. "There's a town hall meeting tomorrow in Yaba. Community leaders are discussing tech accessibility in underserved areas. Your viral moment has accidentally sparked a bigger conversation about wealth inequality and who gets to participate in Nigeria's tech boom. Okay, I want you to come with me. Not as Chidi Okonkwo, billionaire heir. Not as Chidi Mba, fake waiter. Just as Chidi, a person who claims to care about this issue. I want you to listen to real people talk about real struggles without hiding behind a costume. Can you do that?" It was a test, and they both knew it. But it was also an opportunity, maybe his last one, to prove he'd learned something from this disaster. "Yes," Chidi said. "I'll be there." "Good. Because if you're not, or if you show up and act like this is all beneath you, we're done for real. No second chances." She turned to leave, but Chidi called after her. "Amara? Thank you for not giving up on me yet." She paused at the door. "I haven't decided if I'm giving up or not. Tomorrow will tell me everything I need to know." Then she was gone, leaving Chidi with both hope and dread. The next day arrived too quickly. Chidi dressed simply, jeans and a plain shirt, no designer labels. He took public transport to Yaba, arriving at the community center where the town hall was being held. The room was packed. Tech workers, students, small business owners, and community organizers filled every seat. Amara sat in the front row, and when she saw Chidi enter, she gave him a small nod and gestured to an empty seat beside her. The meeting started with testimonials from people struggling to access digital services. A young woman talked about how expensive data plans made online education impossible. A small business owner explained how payment processing fees ate into already thin profits. A teacher described schools with no computers, no internet, no way to prepare students for a digital economy. Chidi listened, really listened, hearing echoes of conversations from his 3 months as a waiter. These weren't abstract problems or charity cases. These were the people he'd worked alongside, served food to, chatted with during slow shifts. They were his neighbors in Surreal. They were Amara's volunteers. They were real. When the moderator opened the floor to questions, an older man in the back stood up. "I have a question for Mr. Okonkwo. If he's here." Every head in the room turned toward Chidi. He felt Amara tense beside him. "I've seen the videos," the man continued. "I've read the articles. And I want to know, what exactly did you learn from pretending to be one of us? Was it worth it?" The room was dead silent. Chidi could feel hundreds of eyes on him, waiting to see if he'd deflect, make excuses, or reveal himself to be exactly what they suspected, another privileged person treating their lives as entertainment. This was his moment, his chance to prove he'd actually learned something, or to confirm every suspicion that he was just another rich person playing games. Chidi stood slowly, his heart pounding. He could feel Amara's gaze on him, weighing every word he was about to say. "Sir, you asked what I learned," Chidi began, his voice steady despite his nerves. The honest answer is that I learned I was asking the wrong question. I thought I needed to discover who was real and who was fake. I thought poverty made people more authentic and wealth made people shallow. He paused, gathering his thoughts. But working as a waiter didn't teach me about poor people versus rich people. It taught me about myself. It showed me that I'd spent 31 years insulated from the actual cost of living in this country. I'd never had to choose between data and food. I'd never worked 12 hours and still worried about making rent. I'd never been invisible to people who would have noticed me if I'd worn an expensive watch. A few people nodded. Others remained skeptical. Was it worth it? Chidi continued. Not the way I did it, no. I hurt people. I lied to coworkers who trusted me. I deceived someone I care about deeply. He glanced at Amara, whose expression was unreadable. I treated real struggles as a social experiment, and that was arrogant and wrong. So what now? A young woman called out. You go back to your mansion with a nice story about how you learned something? That's up to all of you, Chidi said. I can't undo the damage I've caused, but I can choose what I do next. My family's wealth gives me access to resources, connections, and platforms. I can use those things to center my own redemption story, or I can use them to amplify the voices in this room. He looked directly at the man who'd questioned him. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm asking for the chance to do better, to listen more and talk less, to support the work people like Amara are already doing instead of pretending I understand struggles I've never faced. The moderator stepped in. Mr. Okonkwo, several people here have proposals for addressing digital inequality. Would you be willing to stay and hear them? Yes. That's why I came. For the next 2 hours, Chidi sat and listened. He took notes on his phone as entrepreneurs pitched ideas for affordable internet cooperatives, as teachers outlined technology needs for rural schools, as developers described software that could run on cheap devices with limited connectivity. He didn't interrupt. He didn't offer solutions. He just listened, really listened, the way he should have been doing all along. When the meeting finally ended, people approached him, some curious, some still angry, but all with ideas they wanted to share. Chidi gave out his real phone number, his real email address. No more fake identities. No more hiding. Amara waited until the crowd thinned before approaching him. That was a good start, she said quietly. Just a start. Chidi, you gave a nice speech. You listen to people. But words are easy. I need to see what you do next. She crossed her arms. My company is struggling. We secured that European investment, but it's not enough to scale the way we need to. We're competing against big tech companies with unlimited resources, and we're trying to serve communities that can't always pay premium prices. How can I help? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Amara studied him carefully. I don't want your charity. I don't want you to swoop in like some savior and throw money at problems you don't understand. But if you're serious about using your privilege for something beyond performance art, then we need to have a real conversation about partnership. Partnership, Chidi repeated, liking the sound of the word. Equal partnership. That means I get full transparency about your intentions. It means you don't get to play hero. You work, you learn, you take direction from people who actually know these communities. And it means if this is just about winning me back, you can leave right now. Chidi met her eyes. I want to win you back, he said honestly. I'd be lying if I said otherwise. But even if you never forgive me, Amara, what you're building matters. It matters more than my ego or my guilt. So yes, I want to be part of it. On your terms. Amara was quiet for a long moment. Then she pulled out her phone. Give me your real number. Not the one you gave me as fake waiter Chidi. Your actual number. They exchanged contact information again, this time with no pretense. I'll be in touch, Amara said. Maybe in a few days, maybe in a few weeks. I need time to think about whether I can trust you again. But Chidi, if you mess this up, if this turns out to be another game, there won't be a third chance. I understand. She nodded and walked away, leaving Chidi standing alone in the emptying community center. It wasn't forgiveness, but it wasn't rejection either. It was possibility, conditional and fragile, but real. Chidi's phone buzzed. Another call from his father. This time, he answered. Dad, Chidi, where have you been? The board meeting is in an hour. You need to be there to address this situation. I'll be there, but I'm not apologizing for the experiment. I'm apologizing for the execution. What does that mean? It means I learned something, just not what you thought I would. I'll explain at the meeting. But Dad, things are going to change. The way we do business, the way we engage with communities, the way we think about our responsibility beyond profit margins. Chief Emeka was silent for several seconds. Your mother would have said something like that. The mention of his mother made Chidi's throat tight. Then maybe I'm finally becoming the son she wanted me to be. We'll see. Come home, Chidi. We have work to do. Chidi took one last look around the community center at the folding chairs and the worn linoleum floors and the bulletin board covered in flyers for local services. Then he stepped outside into the Lagos afternoon, into the noise and chaos and beautiful complication of the city he'd been born in, but was only now beginning to truly see. His phone buzzed with a text from Amara. By the way, if you're serious about partnership, read this. She'd attached a 40-page business proposal document. Chidi smiled. She was testing him again, seeing if he'd actually do the work or just talk about it. He downloaded the document and began reading as he walked to find transport. He was 3 pages in when he heard someone call his name. Chidi Okonkwo. There he is. Chidi looked up to see a group of young people approaching, phones out, recording. His stomach dropped, preparing for more public disgrace and confrontation. But the woman in front surprised him. Mr. Okonkwo, I'm Blessing. I'm a student at Unilag. I wanted to say thank you. Thank me. Your story went viral for all the wrong reasons, but it started a conversation my generation needed. About privilege, about inequality, about how we treat service workers. Blessing smiled. My father is a driver for a wealthy family. They've never asked his name in 5 years. But after your story blew up, my mother said they actually introduced themselves to him properly for the first time. So yeah, you messed up, but you also accidentally did something important. Chidi didn't know what to say. He'd been so focused on his personal failure that he hadn't considered the broader conversation his actions had sparked. I'm glad something good came from it, he finally said. Now, don't mess up the second chance, Blessing said, still filming. That woman, Amara, she's brilliant. If you hurt her again, Nigerian women everywhere will come for you. We already have the hashtag ready. Her friends laughed, and despite everything, Chidi laughed too. Message received. They took a quick photo. Chidi had learned that trying to avoid cameras only made things worse, and went their separate ways. As Chidi finally made it to the bus stop, his phone buzzed again. This time it was a message from an unknown number with a Lagos area code. Your little apology tour is cute, but some of us remember what you really are. Rich boys don't change. They just get better at pretending. Watch your back. The message sent a chill down his spine. It was vague enough to be meaningless, but specific enough to be a threat. Someone out there wanted him to fail, wanted to prove that his transformation was fake. Chidi looked at the message for a long moment, then deleted it. He wouldn't let anonymous threats derail him. He had a board meeting to attend, a business proposal to read, and a second chance to earn. But as he climbed onto the crowded Danfo bus, pressing between other passengers in the sweltering heat, he couldn't shake the feeling that his real test was just beginning. Because changing yourself was hard, but convincing others you'd changed? That might be impossible. What do you think? Can Chidi really change? Or is this just another performance? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you're loving this story, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next chapter. The boardroom of Okonkwo Holdings occupied the entire top floor of a glass tower in Lagos's Victoria Island business district. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered views of the Atlantic Ocean, and the conference table was imported Italian marble that cost more than most Nigerians earned in a lifetime. Chidi had attended hundreds of meetings in this room, but walking in today felt different. He saw the space through new eyes, the excessive luxury, the deliberate intimidation of the design, the message it sent about who mattered and who didn't. 12 board members sat around the table, including his father at the head. Their expressions ranged from curious to openly hostile. Gentlemen, ladies, Chief Emeka began. My son has requested to address the board regarding recent events. Chidi stood, feeling the weight of their judgment. These were Nigeria's business elite, bank executives, property developers, political connections made flesh. They didn't care about his emotional journey or his quest for authenticity. They care about one thing: whether his actions had damaged the Okonkwo brand. "I want to address the elephant in the room," Chidi began. "Yes, I posed as a waiter for 3 months. Yes, my deception was exposed publicly. Yes, it created negative publicity for the family business. I take full responsibility for that." "Negative publicity?" Mr. Adeyemi, the oldest board member, leaned forward. "Your little stunt has cost us 2 major contracts. Our competitors are using this to question our judgment, our values, our fitness to do business. If they can't be honest about their own son, how can we trust them with our investments?" "I understand." "Do you?" Mrs. Okafor, who managed the hospitality division, cut in. "Do you understand that staff morale at the Grand Palazzo has collapsed? Your co-workers feel betrayed. They trusted you, worked alongside you, and the whole time you were conducting some social experiment. How do we rebuild that trust?" Chidi absorbed the criticism without deflecting. "You're right. All of you. What I did was selfish and short-sighted. But I learned something that could benefit this company if you're willing to listen." Chief Emeka raised an eyebrow. "We're listening. We've built this empire by catering to the wealthy, luxury hotels, premium developments, exclusive services. But Nigeria's future isn't in the 1%. It's in the millions of people we've been ignoring. The tech workers, the small business owners, the young people building things with limited resources. There's a massive market we're not serving." "We're not a charity, Chidi," Mr. Adeyemi said. "I'm not suggesting charity. I'm suggesting smart business." Chidi pulled up Amara's proposal on his tablet and projected it onto the screen. "This is a tech company called Digital Future Initiative. They've developed agricultural software that helps small farmers increase yields using basic smartphones. They're profitable, scalable, and they're addressing real needs for millions of people." He clicked through slides showing market analysis, growth projections, and social impact metrics. "I propose we invest in companies like this, not as CSR window dressing, but as core business strategy. We partner with innovators who understand underserved markets. We provide capital and infrastructure, and we position Okonkwo Holdings as a company that grows with Nigeria, not just off it." The room was quiet. Mrs. Okafor studied the numbers on screen. "These projections are impressive, but partnering with a small startup run by..." She checked her notes. "Amara Nwosu, a 29-year-old with no elite connections? That's a significant risk." "So was every major decision that built this company," Chidi countered. "My grandfather started with a single bus service. My father expanded into hospitality when everyone said it was saturated. Every generation has to decide whether to protect what we have or build what's next." "Pretty speech," Mr. Adeyemi said. "But this sounds less like business strategy and more like you try to impress a girl." Several board members chuckled. Chidi felt his face heat with embarrassment, but he held his ground. "You're partially right," he admitted. "I do want to impress Amara Nwosu, but not with money or status. Those don't work on her. I want to impress her by being someone worth respecting. And maybe that's exactly the perspective this board needs." Chief Emeka tapped his pen against his notepad, a habit Chidi recognized from childhood. His father was thinking, weighing options. "The proposal has merit," Chief Emeka finally said. "But it requires trust. Trust that you're committed to serious work, not just performing redemption. Trust that you understand the responsibility that comes with our family name." He looked around the table. "I propose we give Chidi 3 months to prove this isn't just about personal redemption. He'll lead due diligence on this digital future initiative, report back with a comprehensive analysis, and if the numbers support it, we'll consider investment." "And if he fails?" Mrs. Okafor asked. "Then he returns to his previous role in hospitality management. No special projects, no experiments. He does the work he was trained to do." It was a test, and everyone knew it. Chidi was being given enough rope to either pull himself up or hang himself. "I accept," Chidi said. The vote was close, but the motion passed. Chidi had 3 months. As the meeting adjourned and board members filed out, his father pulled him aside. "Don't make me regret this," Chief Emeka said quietly. "Your mother believed in giving people chances to grow, but even she had limits. I won't let you down, Dad. It's not me I'm worried about. It's you. You're carrying hope now, son. Hope is powerful, but it's also fragile. Protect it. Chidi left the boardroom, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. This wasn't about proving himself anymore. It was about proving that change was possible, that privilege could be leveraged for good, that maybe, just maybe, he could be part of building something better. His phone rang. Amara, I heard about the board meeting, she said without preamble. You proposed partnering with my company? Who told you? Lagos is small when you know the right people. Chidi, I told you I didn't want to be your redemption project. You're not. Your company is solid, your vision is sound, and the market opportunity is real. I pitched you because it's good business, not because I'm trying to buy forgiveness. Amara was quiet for a moment. If we do this, and I mean if, I need guarantees. I need to maintain control of my company. I need contracts that protect my team. And I need you to understand that we're not dating just because we're business partners. I understand. Do you? Because I'm not interested in being the girl who validates your transformation story. I'm building something real, Chidi. I can't afford distractions, especially not complicated ones involving viral video drama and daddy issues. Her bluntness made him smile despite himself. Noted. So, when can we discuss terms? Tomorrow. My office. 10 a.m. Bring your finance team. Bring lawyers. Bring whoever you need. But Chidi? Show up as yourself. Not the waiter. Not the billionaire heir playing humble. Just you. Whoever that is. She hung up before he could respond. That evening, Chidi returned to his Surreal apartment rather than his family's mansion. He needed time to think, to prepare, to figure out who exactly he was beneath all the roles he'd been playing. He was reviewing Amara's business documents when his phone buzzed with another anonymous message. Cute how you think you've changed. But liars always go back to lying. And when you do, I'll be there to catch you. This was the third anonymous threat since the town hall. Someone was watching him, waiting for him to fail. Should he try to trace the number, but it was blocked? He considered reporting it, but what would he say? Someone was sending vaguely threatening texts. It could be anyone, a disgruntled customer from his waiter days, someone who'd lost money betting against his father's company, or just a troll who enjoyed making people uncomfortable. He forced himself to focus on work. Tomorrow's meeting with Amara was too important to let paranoia distract him. But sleep didn't come easily. Chidi tossed and turned, his mind racing through worst-case scenarios. What if the due diligence uncovered problems with Amara's company? What if the board was right, and this was just about impressing a girl? What if he was still just playing another role, this time as the reformed rich kid, and everyone could see through it except him? At 3 a.m., his phone rang. An unknown Lagos number, but not the one that had been sending threats. Hello. Is this Chidi Okonkwo? A woman's voice, nervous. Yes. Who is this? My name is Ngozi. I worked with you at the Grand Palazzo when you were pretending to be a waiter. Chidi sat up. Ngozi, I remember you. You trained me on my first day. I'm sorry I deceived you. I'm not calling about that. She sounded frightened. I'm calling because someone came to the hotel today asking questions about you. A woman. She was offering money to staff members who would talk about your time there, share stories, find dirt. What kind of dirt? Anything that would make you look bad. She wanted to know if you were rude to customers, if you stole, if you harassed anyone. She specifically asked if you'd been inappropriate with female staff. Chidi's blood ran cold. Did anyone talk to her? I don't know. But Chidi, she was professional. She had a camera crew. This wasn't just gossip. It looked like an investigation. Did she say who she was working for? No, but Ngozi hesitated. She looked familiar. I think I've seen her on TV. One of those investigative journalism shows. After Ngozi hung up, Chidi sat in the dark apartment, his heart pounding. Someone was building a case against him. Not just sending anonymous threats, but actively trying to destroy whatever credibility he'd managed to salvage. The timing was too convenient. Right as he was trying to rebuild trust, right as he was pursuing a legitimate business opportunity with Amara, someone wanted to prove he was still the same privileged liar he'd always been. Chidi thought about calling his father, but what could Chief Emeka do? Wealthy people trying to suppress negative stories always looked guilty, even when innocent. He thought about warning Amara, but she'd already expressed doubt about his intentions. If she thought he came with media scandals attached, she'd walk away for good. No, he had to handle this himself. At dawn, Chidi showered, dressed in a simple suit, and prepared for his meeting with Amara. Whatever investigation was brewing, he'd face it. But today, he had more important work to do. He arrived at Amara's office 10 minutes early. Her assistant, a sharp young woman named Kemi, offered him coffee while he waited. "Miss Nwosu will be with you shortly," Kemi said. "And just so you know, she's had 3 other investment offers this week. You're not her only option." The message was clear. Don't think your family name guarantees anything. "Good," Chidi said. "She deserves multiple options." Kemi looked surprised, then smiled slightly. "Maybe you're not as clueless as the internet thinks." When Amara finally emerged, she was all business, tablet in hand, glasses on, her natural hair pulled back in a professional bun. She looked intimidatingly competent. "Chidi, conference room 2. My CFO and COO are joining us." The next 3 hours were intense. Amara's team grilled Chidi on financing structures, equity stakes, management roles, and long-term vision. They didn't give him any special treatment because of his last name. If anything, they were harder on him, testing whether he could handle real scrutiny. Chidi held his own. He'd spent the night memorizing their financial statements, understanding their market position, identifying both opportunities and risks. He asked smart questions. He pushed back when their requests were unreasonable. He treated this like a real partnership, not charity. "You've done your homework," Amara finally said, sitting back. "I'm impressed. I'm trying to prove I'm serious." "Are you, though?" Her COO, a man named Femi, leaned forward. "Because here's my concern, Mr. Okonkwo. Rich people love the idea of impact investing until it actually impacts their returns. The moment we hit a rough quarter, the moment we have to choose between profit and principles, what side will you be on?" It was a fair question. Chidi thought about his grandfather, who'd built a family fortune with ruthless business practices. He thought about board members who saw everything as a zero-sum game. "I can't promise I'll always get it right," Chidi said honestly. "I'll probably make mistakes. But I can promise I'll listen when you tell me I'm wrong. And I can promise that I understand the stakes now in a way I didn't before." Amara and Femi exchanged glances. "We'll need time to discuss internally," Amara said. "But Chidi, if we move forward, I need you to understand something. This isn't about us. About you and me personally. Even if we never speak outside of business meetings, this partnership has to work. Can you handle that?" The question hurt more than Chidi expected, but he understood what she was asking. Could he separate his personal feelings from professional respect? "Yes," he said. "Your work is too important to be tangled up in my complicated emotions." Amara studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "We'll be in touch." As Chidi left the building, he felt both hopeful and melancholy. He was finally doing something meaningful, but the cost was accepting that Amara might never forgive him personally. He might have to watch from a distance as she built her empire, always wondering what they could have been if he'd just been honest from the start. His phone buzzed. A news alert. Investigative series exposing billionaire waiter scandal coming this week. Exclusive interviews and shocking revelations. The story was about to break, and Chidi had no idea what shocking revelations they'd manufactured. He was about to find out just how much his past mistakes would cost him. If you're hooked on this story, smash that like button and subscribe. What do you think the investigation will reveal? Drop your predictions in the comments below. The investigative report aired on Wednesday night, and it was worse than Chidi had imagined. The journalist, Zainab Adeola, was known for her hard-hitting exposés on corruption and abuse of power. She'd taken down politicians, business magnates, and celebrities with meticulous research and devastating interviews. Now she turned her attention to what she called the dark side of privilege tourism. Chidi watched from his apartment as his life was dissected on national television. The segment opened with footage of him working at the Grand Palazzo, secretly recorded by what must have been a diner's phone. Then it cut to interviews with former co-workers, their faces blurred, voices distorted. "He always seemed like he was studying us," one said. "Like we were animals in a zoo, and he was taking notes for his thesis." There was this one time a customer spilled wine on him, another recalled. He laughed it off, but you could see in his eyes he was furious. Like, how dare you treat me this way? We all felt it, the contempt beneath the act. The segment painted Chidi as a privileged sociopath conducting cruel experiments on unsuspecting working-class people. It highlighted Adana's viral video, positioning her as a victim of his elaborate deception and emotional manipulation. But the most damaging part came near the end. Perhaps most troubling, Zainab said, staring directly into the camera, is Mr. Okonkwo's current relationship with Amara Nwosu, founder of Digital Future Initiative. Sources close to the situation suggest this may be yet another calculated move, a way to rehabilitate his image by associating with a respected entrepreneur who works with underserved communities. Ms. Nwosu's company is now in negotiations with Okonkwo Holdings for a substantial investment. One has to ask, is this legitimate business, or is it simply the next phase of a rich man's redemption project? The screen showed a photo of Chidi and Amara from the charity event, caught in a moment where they were smiling at each other. The caption read, "Romance or performance?" Chidi's phone exploded with notifications. Calls from his father, messages from board members, texts from old friends asking if he was okay. But there was one message he dreaded seeing most. It came 20 minutes after the broadcast ended. From Amara, "We need to talk. Now." They met at a late-night cafe in Yaba, one of the few places still open at 11 p.m. Amara arrived, looking exhausted and furious. "Did you see it?" she asked, sliding into the booth across from him. "Yes. Do you have any idea what this does to me? To my company?" Her voice was low but shaking with anger. "I've spent 4 years building credibility in this industry. For years, proving that a woman without connections can create something valuable. And now, thanks to you, people think I'm either naive or complicit in your PR scheme. Amara, I never meant. I don't care what you meant." She slammed her hand on the table, drawing looks from other patrons. "I care about what happened. I care that my investors are calling, asking if our numbers are legitimate or if we're just part of your performance. I care that my board is questioning whether partnering with Okonkwo Holdings will destroy our reputation instead of elevating it." Chidi felt his world crumbling. "What can I do?" "I don't know. Tell the truth. Except nobody believes you anymore. Your truth is just another story to them." Amara rubbed her temples. "My COO wants to pull out of negotiations entirely. Says the optics are too messy. But the business case is sound. Business isn't just numbers, Chidi. It's trust. It's reputation. It's people believing that you actually care about something beyond yourself." She met his eyes. "Do you? Do you actually care about my work? Or am I just the latest character in your quest for authenticity?" The question hung between them, heavy with accumulated pain and doubt. "I care," Chidi said quietly. "I care so much that it scares me. Because yes, I want you to forgive me. Yes, I want you to see me as someone worth loving. But Amara, even if you told me right now that we would never be together, I would still believe in your company. I would still want to support the work you're doing. Maybe not as an investor if that's what you need, but in whatever way helps rather than hurts." Amara's expression softened slightly. "You really mean that?" "I do." She was quiet for a long time, staring into her coffee. "I want to believe you. But every time I start to trust you, something happens that reminds me why I shouldn't. The universe keeps sending me signs that you're toxic for me and my business. Maybe the universe is testing us both," Chidi said, "testing whether we're willing to fight for something real despite how messy it is. That's very romantic. It's also exhausting." Amara looked up. "Here's what I need. I need you to step back from the investment negotiations. Completely. Have your father or someone else from Okonkwo Holdings handle it. That way, if the deal goes through, it's based purely on business merit, not on whatever this is between us." It made sense, but it hurt. Chidi had wanted to prove himself through this partnership. Stepping back felt like admitting defeat. "Okay," he said, "I'll step back. And I need space. Real space. No texts, no surprise visits, no grand gestures. Let me figure out what I want without the pressure of you constantly trying to prove something. For how long? I don't know. until I'm sure that what I'm feeling is real and not just me being swept up in some dramatic story. She stood to leave. Chidi, I do see something good in you, but I also see someone who hasn't fully figured out who he is without an audience. And I can't be your mirror. I can't be the person who validates your transformation. You have to do that yourself. She left before he could respond. Chidi sat alone in the cafe, feeling the weight of her words. She was right. He'd been so focused on proving himself to others, to his father, to Amara, to the watching world, that he hadn't actually figured out who he wanted to be when no one was looking. His phone rang. His father. Chidi, the board is in emergency session tomorrow morning. Mrs. Okafor is calling for your removal from the company entirely. She's arguing that you're a liability. Dad, I can only protect you so much, son. You need to decide if you're fighting for your place in this company or if you're ready to walk away and build something of your own. What do you think I should do? Chief Emeka was quiet for a long moment. Your mother and I used to argue about this. She thought I was grooming you to be a copy of me. She wanted you to find your own path, even if it meant leaving the family business. I thought that was naive. I thought legacy mattered most. And now I think maybe she was right. Maybe the greatest gift I can give you isn't a company. It's permission to become yourself, whoever that is. After hanging up, Chidi walked through the quiet Lagos streets, thinking. The past 4 months have been about running towards something. Authenticity, truth, real love. But maybe he'd been running from something too. From the weight of expectations. From the fear of disappointing his father. From the terror of becoming his own person instead of fulfilling a predetermined role. By the time he returned to his apartment, dawn was breaking over the city. Chidi made a decision. He spent the next day writing, not a press release or a business proposal, but a letter to his father, to the board, to Amara, to everyone who'd been affected by his choices. The board meeting was scheduled for Friday morning. Chidi arrived early, carrying a folder with his resignation letter and a detailed plan for transitioning his responsibilities. The board members looked surprised when he walked in. Before we begin, Chidi said, standing at the head of the table where his father usually sat, I want to say something. He distributed copies of his letter. I'm resigning from Okonkwo Holdings effective immediately. Not because I'm giving up, but because I've realized something important. I would try to prove I've changed by staying in the same structures that enabled my worst behavior. That doesn't make sense. Mrs. Okafor looked skeptical. So you're just quitting? Running away when things get hard? No, I'm starting over. Really starting over. Not as a performance, but as a necessity. Chidi took a breath. I'm using my trust fund, which my mother left me independently of the company, to start a venture capital firm focused on African entrepreneurs from non-traditional backgrounds. People like Amara and Wosu who have brilliant ideas but lack the connections or capital to scale. He clicked through a presentation he'd prepared overnight. I'm partnering with impact investors who prioritize both profit and purpose. I'm hiring a team of people smarter than me who actually understand these markets. And I'm setting up a governance structure that prevents me from making unilateral decisions. I'll have accountability, oversight, and partners who will call me out when I'm wrong. Mr. Adeyemi studied the business plan. This is actually well thought out. I had good teachers, Chidi said, looking at his father. I'm not rejecting what this family built. I'm trying to build something complementary. Something that serves markets you're not interested in and takes risks you can't afford to take. Chief Emeka had been silent throughout the presentation. Now he spoke. And if this venture fails, if you lose everything, then I'll have learned something real. And I'll start again. Chidi met his father's eyes. Dad, you gave me 3 months to prove myself. I'm asking for something different now. I'm asking for permission to stop proving myself to you and start building something I actually believe in. The room was quiet. Then, surprisingly, Mrs. Okafor spoke. I vote we support this initiative. Not financially. Chidi's right that he needs to do this independently. But we can provide mentorship, connections, and credibility. His mother would have liked this plan. One by one, the board members agreed. Even Mr. Adeyemi, who'd been most skeptical, admitted the venture had potential. Chief Emeka was the last to speak. Your mother always said you were more like her than me. I fought against that because I wanted you to be tough, to be a fighter in the business world I knew. But she was right. You have her heart. He stood and extended his hand. I'm proud of you, son. Not for the company you're leaving, but for the man you're becoming. Chidi shook his father's hand, feeling a weight lift from his shoulders that he hadn't realized he'd been carrying his entire life. As the meeting adjourned, Chidi felt both terrified and exhilarated. He was walking away from guaranteed wealth and status to build something uncertain. But for the first time in his life, it felt like his choice. Over the next 2 weeks, Chidi moved quickly. He hired a small but talented team, including Ngozi from the Grand Palazzo, who turned out to have a business degree and sharp instincts for identifying promising ventures. He secured office space in Yaba, deliberately choosing the tech hub over Victoria Island's corporate towers. He reached out to entrepreneurs he'd met during his waiter days and at Amara's charity event. And he respected Amara's request for space, even though it killed him not to share his progress with her. But Lagos was small, and news traveled fast. 2 weeks after his resignation, Chidi was working late at his new office when someone knocked on the door. It was Amara. I heard about what you did, she said, leaning against the doorframe. Resigning from your father's company, starting your own firm. News travels fast, especially when it's actually interesting news. She stepped inside, looking around at the modest space, so different from Okonkwo Holdings' glass tower. Is this real, Chidi? Or is this another experiment? It's real. It's also terrifying. I have no idea if I'm going to succeed. Good. That means you're actually taking a risk. Amara sat down across from his desk. I've been thinking about what you said, about fighting for something despite how messy it is. And I realized I've been so afraid of being another woman taken advantage of by a wealthy man that I haven't let myself see what's actually in front of me, which is someone who's genuinely trying, someone who keeps showing up even when it would be easier to quit. She smiled slightly. Someone who gave up the easy path because he finally figured out it was the wrong path. Chidi's heart was racing. Amara, I'm not saying I trust you completely. Trust is earned over time, not through grand gestures. But I'm saying I'm willing to try, to see if maybe we can build something together, personally and professionally, if we're both honest about our flaws and committed to doing better. I'd like that. Very much. But I have conditions, Amara said, her tone becoming more serious. First, we keep business and romance separate. If we're going to date, it can't affect how we negotiate deals. Second, you go to therapy. Real therapy, not just talking to your father. You got privilege trauma and identity issues to work through. Privilege trauma? Being rich comes with its own psychological damage, Chidi. You need help figuring out who you are without the money defining you. And third, she paused. If you ever lie to me again about anything, we're done. No second chances, no explanations. Just done. I understand. And I agree to all 3 conditions. Amara stood and extended her hand formally. Now let's see if we can do this right this time. Chidi took her hand, but instead of shaking it, he held it gently. Can I take you to dinner? Somewhere modest, nowhere fancy. Just 2 people getting to know each other honestly. I'd like that. They went to a local bukka in Yaba. Plastic chairs, fluorescent lights, incredible jollof rice. They talked for hours, and for the first time, Chidi didn't have to perform or hide. He told Amara about his mother's death when he was 23, how it had left him feeling unanchored. He talked about the pressure of being an only child carrying family expectations. He admitted his fears that he was still just a rich kid playing dress-up in meaningful work. Amara listened without judgment, then shared her own story. Growing up poor in Abeokuta, winning a scholarship to the University of Lagos, building her first software prototype with borrowed equipment. The constant struggle to be taken seriously as a young woman in tech with no elite connections. The exhaustion of always having to prove herself while watching mediocre men with family money get funding easily. That's why your deception hurt so much, she said quietly. You had every advantage I've been fighting for my whole life, and you treated it like a costume you could put on and take off. Like poverty was an experience to sample rather than a reality people live. I know, and I'm sorry. Not just sorry I hurt you, but sorry it took me so long to understand why. They walked back through the night streets, and when they reached Amara's car, she turned to face him. I need you to know something, she said. I'm not your redemption. I'm not the prize you win for becoming a better person. I'm just a woman trying to build something meaningful. And if we're going to be together, it has to be because we're partners. Equals. Not because you need me to validate your transformation. I know, and that's exactly why I want to be with you. Amara kissed him then, soft and brief, but full of possibility. One day down, she said, smiling. Let's see how many more we can get through before you mess this up. I'll do my best not to. As Amara drove away, Chidi stood on the street, feeling something he hadn't felt in years. Peace. Not the false peace of privilege that insulated him from consequences, but the real peace of knowing he was on the right path, even if it was harder. His phone buzzed. Another anonymous message. Congratulations on your new venture. Shame if something happened to destroy it before it even started. The threats had continued sporadically over the past 2 weeks. Chidi had tried to ignore them, but this one felt different, more specific. He was about to call his father's head of security when another message arrived, this time with a photo attachment. It was a picture of him and Amara from tonight, kissing outside her car. The angle suggested it had been taken from across the street. Someone was watching him, someone who wanted him to know they were watching. Chidi's blood ran cold. This wasn't just trolling anymore. This was stalking. He immediately called Amara. Someone's been following me, photographing us. I think you might be in danger. What are you talking about? He forwarded her the messages and photos. There was a long silence on the line. Chidi, who did you piss off badly enough that they do this? I don't know. It could be Adana, still angry about the initial deception. It could be business competitors of my father's. It could be someone from the media looking for another story. Or it could be someone dangerous, Amara said, her voice tight. We need to report this to the police. I will. First thing tomorrow. But Amara, maybe we should slow things down. If being close to me puts you at risk. Don't you dare, she interrupted. Don't you dare use this as an excuse to push me away because you're scared. We face this together, or we don't face it at all. Her fierce loyalty, even after everything he'd put her through, made Chidi's throat tight with emotion. Together, he agreed. They filed a police report the next morning, though the officers seemed skeptical. Anonymous messages aren't really enough for us to do much, he said. Unless there's a direct threat or physical contact, we can only document it. Someone is stalking us, Amara said firmly. That seems fairly direct. I understand your concern, Ma, but Lagos is a big city. Lots of people take photos. Doesn't mean it's criminal. Frustrated, but with no other options, they left the station. Chidi hired private security for both himself and Amara. Discreet but professional. He also reached out to a digital security expert to trace the anonymous numbers. 3 days later, they got a break. The security expert, a young man named Tund, called Chidi into his office. I traced the messages. They're using a burner app, but I was able to track the IP address to a location in Lekki. He pulled up a map showing a luxury apartment complex. I cross-referenced that location with public records. Want to guess who lives there? Chidi's stomach dropped as Tund pulled up a name and photo. It wasn't Adana. It wasn't a business competitor. It was someone Chidi had never considered. Chisholm, Adana's younger sister. Why would Chisholm? Then Chidi remembered. Chisholm had briefly worked at the Grand Palazzo years ago, before Chidi started his undercover operation. She'd been fired for theft, stealing from hotel guests. Chidi had been on the management committee that approved her termination. She blames you for ruining her career, Tund said, pulling up social media posts from Chisholm's private accounts that he'd managed to access. The posts were obsessive, photos of Chidi, rants about wealthy people destroying working-class lives, conspiracy theories about the Okonkwo family. She's been planning this since before your viral moment, Tund continued. She encouraged Adana to post that video. She leaked the surveillance footage to the media. And now she's escalating. Why now? Why target Amara? Because you actually care about her, Tund said simply. Chisholm doesn't just want to embarrass you. She wants to hurt you. And the best way to hurt you is through someone you love. Chidi felt sick. His actions had consequences he'd never imagined, rippling out to endanger innocent people. We need to go to the police with this, Amara said. She'd been listening silently, her face pale. Already compiled everything for them. Tun said, handing over a flash drive. This should be enough for them to take action. But before they could leave, Chidi's phone rang. Unknown number, but not the one that had been threatening him. Hello. Chidi Okonkwo. A woman's voice, shaking. This is Adana. You need to listen to me carefully. My sister Chisholm. She's lost it. She just left my apartment saying something about making things right and teaching lessons. I think she's going after your girlfriend. I tried to stop her, but she wouldn't listen. I'm so sorry. I didn't know how far she'd gone. Chidi was already moving, Amara right behind him. Where would she go? Think, Adana. Your new office? She was obsessed with it, kept talking about how you're still playing games with poor people. They raced to Chidi's office in Yaba, calling the police on the way. Security footage would later show Chisholm entering the building 5 minutes before they arrived, carrying a can of gasoline. When Chidi and Amara reached the office, smoke was already seeping under the door. Call the fire department. Chidi shouted to a bystander, then kicked open the door. Inside, Chisholm stood in the middle of the small office, lighter in hand, surrounded by files and furniture she'd doused with accelerant. Her eyes were wild, unfocused. You destroyed my life, she said. I was going to make something of myself. But you fire me over one mistake. One mistake, and you get infinite chances because you're rich. Chisholm, I'm sorry, Chidi said, hands raised, moving slowly. You're right. The system is unfair. But burning down my office won't fix it, and it will destroy your life even more. Maybe I don't care anymore. Maybe I just want you to feel what I felt. Hopeless. Watching everything burn. Then you'll also burn Amara's future, Chidi said desperately. You'll burn opportunities for entrepreneurs who need this funding. You'll burn jobs for my employees like Ngozi, who's a single mother supporting 2 kids. They didn't hurt you. I did. So if you want to punish someone, punish me. But don't take them down with me. Chisholm's hand trembled. For a moment, Chidi thought he'd reached her. Then she flicked the lighter. Everything happened fast. Amara lunged forward, knocking the lighter from Chisholm's hand. Chidi grabbed Chisholm, pulling her away from the gasoline. Security arrived, then police, then firefighters who extinguished the small flames before they could spread. Chisholm collapsed, sobbing. I just wanted to matter. I just wanted to be seen. As police led her away, Amara turned to Chidi, covered in soot, shaking from adrenaline. Are you okay? He asked. I will be. But Chidi. She looked around at the smoke-damaged office, at the chaos his past had created. This is what I was afraid of. Your world is complicated, messy, full of people who've been hurt and are hurting others in return. I know, and I understand if this is too much. If you want to walk away. I didn't say that. Amara grabbed his hand. I said it's complicated. But so is everything worth fighting for. The question is whether we fight together or separately. Chidi pulled her close, holding on like she was his anchor in a storm. Together. Always together, if you'll have me. Then we rebuild, Amara said firmly. We rebuild your office, we rebuild trust, and we build something better from all this mess. The weeks that followed were hard. Chisholm faced charges for arson and stalking. Adana publicly apologized, explaining her sister's mental health struggles and her own role in enabling harassment. The story went viral again, but this time the narrative shifted. People began questioning the systems that created such desperation, the cycles of retribution that hurt everyone. Chidi used his platform to address it head-on. He did interviews talking honestly about privilege, about the consequences of his deception, about the responsibility wealthy people had to create more equitable systems rather than just playing at poverty. I can't undo my mistakes, he told one interviewer, but I can build something better from them. That's what second chances are for. Not to erase the past, but to create a different future. His venture capital firm, which he named Imani Ventures after his late mother, began funding its first entrepreneurs. Real people with real businesses addressing real problems. And Chidi showed up not as a savior, but as a partner, providing capital, connections, and support while letting founders lead their own companies. Amara's Digital Future Initiative secured investment from multiple sources, including but not dependent on Okonkwo Holdings. Her software expanded to 6 West African countries, helping hundreds of thousands of small farmers increase yields and income. And through it all, Chidi and Amara built their relationship slowly, honestly, with the kind of foundation that could weather storms. 6 months after the fire, they sat together on the balcony of Chidi's rebuilt office, watching the sun set over Lagos. "Do you ever regret it?" Amara asked. "Giving up the easy path." "Every day," Chidi admitted. "And then I remember what the easy path cost me. My integrity, my self-respect, the chance to know you. Smooth talker. I learned from the best." He pulled her closer. "Amara, I know we agreed to take things slow, but I need to tell you something. If you're about to propose, I'm going to push you off this balcony." Chidi laughed. "Not proposing. Not yet. But I'm saying that I love you. Not the idea of you, not what you represent, but you, your stubbornness, your vision, your refusal to accept less than you deserve. You make me want to be better, not to impress you, but because you show me what better looks like." Amara was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "I love you too. The real you. Not the waiter or the billionaire heir, but the man who's still figuring out who he is and isn't afraid to admit it." They kissed as the Lagos sunset painted the sky in shades of orange and gold. Two people who'd found each other through deception and built something true from the ruins. Below them, the city hummed with life. Millions of stories, millions of struggles, millions of second chances waiting to be claimed. And somewhere in that vast urban landscape, other people were making the same choice Chidi had made. To stop pretending, to start building, to risk everything for something real. Because that's what love was. That's what life was. Not the absence of mistakes, but the courage to learn from them. Not the comfort of certainty, but the adventure of becoming. Chidi Okonkwo had pretended to be poor to find true love. What he'd actually found was something more valuable, himself. And in finding himself, he'd found someone who loved him not despite his flaws, but because he was brave enough to face them. The rest, as they say, was just the beginning. Thank you so much for watching this story. If you loved Chidi and Amara's journey, hit that like button and subscribe to stories_Tino for more emotional African stories. What did you think of Chidi's transformation? Real or just another act? Drop your honest opinion in the comments below. And share this video with someone who believes in second chances and true love. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss our next dramatic story. Where are you watching from? Comment your country. See you in the next one.